Welcome back to My High Plains Life. I'm Danielle, your host. It is November 8th, 2018. It's a Thursday, and I've actually had a really busy day today. I had some shopping to do this morning. I went and saw my husband's grandmother, who's in an assisted living facility, and she had three other visitors while I was there. She has a bigger social life than I do. She gets bored and stuff, but honestly, busier social life than me. And she's 96. Yeah. Um, Sorry. So that was fun. I had a good morning with her and just thought I'd sneak this podcast in. The lighting is a little bad. It is just cloudy outside. So I'm not getting any natural light in here. But it's really not supposed to improve in the next day or two. Like rain and snow and clouds are in the forecast. So we will persevere and hopefully it's not too dark and hopefully the yarn colors and fabric shows up well enough. Okay, so let's get started. On the needles, I have no FOs. Surprise! Yeah, no FOs. Spoiler alert! Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. I won't put a timestamp in, just fast forward. All their clues are out for Stephen West's Texture Time MCAL. And I'm so far behind. I'm still on clue 3, folks. That's where I was 2 weeks ago. It is a slog. Easy. It's just stockinette and garter stitch, but slog. There's a million rows. So, clue 3, texture time. La la. I've got yarn going everywhere. Okay. Clue 1. I have cables and yarn. Look at that. Do you see what I mean? Okay. Clue 3 on the second wing. I am liking these colors. And red is not in my comfort zone. Orange is not in my comfort zone. I'm liking this. I wasn't too sure at clue 2, but once you get more clues in, it goes better together. So, clue 1, clue 2, clue 3 on one side, and I didn't even finish this. Like this has another 10 rows that are in the pattern, but I was like, that's enough. I'm going to start the other side. It ends with the correct stitch count, so I couldn't care less about 10 extra rows. So I started on the second wing, and I'm maybe halfway through. Slog. Easy. You know, like I said, it's just knit and garter, or stockinette stitch with the colored rows and then garter row with the red. Not hard. Hopefully I will be able to start clue 4 this weekend. I hope so, because I'd like to use some of my other yarns. So, not much of a spoiler. If you're knitting along, you should have been in clue 3 at least also. As I said, all the clues are out. I have seen some of the finished shawls, and they are gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So, I'm going to finish this. And this is in my waxed canvas Black Watch Plaid project bag by Tanny Casey. Etsy, people. Etsy. Okay, and I'm an engineer. Laws of physics state mass remains equal. When pressure, volume, temperature don't change, mass should remain the same. However, 5 skeins of yarn fit perfectly fine in here with room. But the same amount of yarn knit up does not squish in there. It violates the laws of physics, folks. Knitting. It's magic. Okay. Anyone who didn't want to see texture time, shawl, you can come back. Yeah, you all stayed with me, right? Continuing with the whips. I have tried to make the texture time shawl my only project that I knit on. So at home, I really have restrained myself. That's all I've been knitting on. However, out and about, I have my travel knitting. I have my sock. I think I showed you before. I had my hole last week. So one sock is done. And I have the toe, the second one. Started, all my increases are done, and I'm about an inch into the instep. I've not had much time to travel knit. So that's about as far as I've gotten. And this is in my Bee Splat bag by Mrs. Brown. If I haven't finished clue 3, and that's the only knitting I've been doing at home, what else have you been doing, you ask? I've been spinning because I'm like, I'm tired of this slog. Well, I told myself I wouldn't knit on anything else, so what can we do? Let's spin. That's right. So I got some spinning done. I had this beautiful braid of fiber that I bought at the Salida Fiber Festival this fall. And it's by Retold Yarns in the There Is No Try colorway. It's green grays, varying shades. Loved it. My lighting keeps, I apologize, it keeps going wonky. So I actually took the time to measure, because it was 100-gram braid, and I split it into 2 50-gram halves on my scale. Normally I just eyeball it, but I was like, no, let's be scientific, Danielle. So split it in half, spun this up. Isn't this gorgeous? That is actually pretty accurate color. It's a lime-ish green. It gets kind of toned down where there's white fiber in it and darkened up a bit where the gray fiber is spun in on it. Spun this in about 2 days. Couldn't wait. Spun up the other half in 1 day. And then I'm sitting there, I want to ply. But I do try and let my singles rest at least 24 hours before plying them together. So it's been 24 hours and I can ply these now. Yay! I was going for with a 2-ply fingering weight. I am probably going to end up with a light fingering, which normally I always come up with like DK worsted. So I will say, as far as what my default yarn is, did not matter with this. This fiber prep was absolutely gorgeous. I didn't even have to draft. Like literally, I just held the fluff in my hand and it drew out and spun up. Absolutely gorgeous. And you can see about how than my singles are. Tried to keep everything consistent. I love the way there's little marls within the single ply, and when I ply them up together, I am hoping to get like a beautiful green-gray marled effect. Can't wait to see what they end up as. This is a merino nylon blend. I have absolutely no idea what it will become, but I'm gonna love it. So, since I was waiting for my singles to set before I applied them, and I didn't feel like returning back to the slog of the garter, what did I do? I pulled out more fiber. So I already had this bobbin spun up, and this one about halfway. So I finished spinning this bobbin. This fiber, comparing fiber preps, was processed in a mill. You could tell, like, it's very clean. It is drafted evenly, and you can tell how it was, after it comes off through the commercial diz, whatever it's called, and then it coils up in a big drum. You could tell that's what it was. I have a big bag of it that I received from a friend when I first started to spin, and I know why now. It's actually pretty easy to draft, pretty easy to spin, but it has, here, this one's easy to see, a lot of neps in it. It's clean. It actually drafts pretty good. It's really crimpy and wants to sponge back up on itself, but there are neps where the fiber has been like little tiny felted spots. And that's all throughout the fiber. My first bobbin that I spun, I just left them in. I didn't know how to deal with it. This one, I actually tried, like, as I was spinning it, I actually spun it up and pulled the neps out as when I could. And it's actually a nice yarn. Like, I think, might not be merino, it might be BFL, but it's pretty soft. Maybe not like next to face soft, but like sweater soft. I have a ton of it. I don't know how well the plied yarn will turn out, and if I should do a 2-ply or a 3-ply with it to try and hide the neps in it better. I don't know. The friend who gave me the fiber, very gracious, because one, like, she gave this to me when I was first learning to spin, and I should have just used it because it would have been great to learn to draft on. It, like I said, it drafts beautifully, it's fine, processed well with the exception of the neps. So, don't know how that happened. But, of course I waited till now. But my friend has a closet full of fleeces, so this is no great loss to her, and I really appreciate it. So I will use it, and I think I'm going to practice dyeing with it because I won't be worried about felting the yarn, I think I won't be as worried about ruining it, so I think I'm going to practice doing some hand dyeing. Yay! We'll see. Okay, so I had a lot of spinning and not a lot of whips. I have no acquisitions, and I have not been stocking anything. Like I said, I have gone through and seen some of the finished shawls from the Stephen West Knit Along, so I guess you could consider that stocking. Stocking the finished objects. And like I said, what I've seen are absolutely beautiful, and I will finish my shawl. So that is all I have for on the needles. For under the needles, I do have some sewing to show you. I have this quilt that I finished quite a while ago, and I had quilted. All I had left to do was the binding. Literally, it's been sitting there for a year with only the binding needing to be done. So I actually threw it out on the cutting table this week, cut the batting and cut the backing to size. What I'm doing, instead of a French fold binding, I am using a self binding. So the backing fabric is just going to come around, fold, and then fold in again to the front to create its own binding, because that's the fabric that I wanted to use for the binding. I don't have any more of it, and it was kind of close in some places, so that's what I'm doing with that. So all I have to do now is press and sew. Additionally, I mentioned we have pregnant friends. Well, I did not cut into my space fabric yet. That's going to be, this lighting, sorry, and phone stinging. That's going to be the nursery / crib quilt, hopefully, if they use it as such. This is meant to be the haul around with you and the diaper bag and throw it on the floor to let the baby play on it quilt. So I'd had the top finished for quite a while, but what I did was put it on my frame, and instead of like quilting it all, I just did a tied quilt. These are knotted pretty good. A baby's not going to choke on them or like get it wrapped around their finger or anything. And it won't come undone if they tug, so that's fine. This looks like a very unassuming yellow flannel, right? Just bright and good for baby. And then kapow! That's right, folks. Kapow! It's Crazy Kittens. I did this because to be unisex, wasn't sure. So it's just easiest to have like unisex baby quilts available, because you never know. This is one of those crazy, it's not Mary Birch, she does crazy bright colors. And they're cats playing with balls of yarn and little mice. And it's awesome, and it's just done in a 3x3, and it's called a split rail fence pattern. If you can see it, kind of makes chevrons all the way across the quilt. So this is the front in quilting cottons. This is the back in a yellow flannel, and this is a nice thick flannel. It's not a Joann's you can see through it flannel. And of course, what wouldn't be complete without a satin binding? So I trimmed this up yesterday too, and all I have to do is pin the binding on and stitch that down, and then this quilt is ready to go. So at least I'll have something to give at the baby shower, yay! Because everybody's like, Danielle is the procrastinator. Expect it when the kid turns 5, you know? So, hold on, Willow. So, this will be done, and I'll have at least one thing to give. So, yay! The only other thing I have for under the needles is my Colorado Springs Quilt Guild meets tonight, and I'm actually looking forward to going to Guild tonight, even though it is Thursday night football. I'm just having my husband record it, and we'll watch it when I get home. As long as nobody tells me the score and spoils it, we'll be good. The agenda for Quilt Guild tonight is the reveal for the annual challenge quilt along, I guess, and the challenge prompt for this year was 8 is good. I think 8 is good, 8 is enough, 8 is good. And so basically the challenge was to use the number 8 somewhere in your quilt, whether it was 8 different colors, 8 different block patterns, 8 blocks wide, 8 inches wide, whether you actually had pieced the number 8 into it or quilted the number 8 into it. Anyway, you could justify incorporating the number 8 into your quilt would count for the challenge. And these are not mandatory, so I did not participate this year. But I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody else who did and what their inspiration they drew from was, because obviously everybody gets the same prompt, but there's a million different ways to interpret that. So I always find it interesting how, like the quilters local to me are taking these challenges on like that and what they come up with. So that is this evening, and this will probably be uploading while I'm at the meeting. In the garden, in the bee yard, nothing until next spring. So we're just going to skip those from now on. Well, until this spring. Off topic, I am so glad spinning counts for the Downseller Studio Pigskin Party knit along, because obviously my knitting has not gotten very far, but I've got yards and yards of spinning. So, yay! I'm glad that counts. I have found a new podcast. I am very excited about it. There's only 5 or 6 episodes so far. Her YouTube username is Dunder Knits, and the podcast is Knitting Vicariously. She's in London, by way of Scotland, and I am loving the podcast. She is another redhead, knits vicariously and in real life, and is very excited about everything, which makes me happy. And she swears. So not so family friendly, but real life. There's a lot of podcasts out there that I've started watching and enjoyed them, and then they've quit before they've hit, the 10th podcast. So I am really enjoying her, and I hope that she continues blogging. I'd like to thank everyone again for watching, and I hope you're all enjoying your fall knitting and getting ready for Thanksgiving. And if you've got Christmas knits planned, that you don't let them stress you out too much. I can be found as Danny Girl Co. on Instagram and Ravelry. I had to think about that. And show notes can be found at www.myhighplainslife.blogspot.com. I'll also include a link to them in the down bar below on the YouTube channel. Thanks! Have a good weekend. Bye.